Bonjour, mes amis. In honor of the Tour de France, if you'll forgive my awful accent, I wanted to share with you a bike that's supposedly a team bike from the Tour de France, which is this Lejeune. I rode this bike in the LaRocca, California a couple of years ago, and the person that I got this bike from, Richard Payne, told me that this bike was a team bike that was used in the Tour de France, probably built around 1974. The video gets a lot better pictures than a still camera, and I'll just show you some of the details on this steel frame. Lejeunes of this caliper were built by a builder named Bernard Carré, and he did a nice job. The craftsmanship is really nice, but even more important, this bike is a really nice riding bike. In the background I have a PX10, which is the standard French bike from the early 70s. There's no comparison in the ride quality between the Lejeune and the PX10. I did LaRocca, California on both bikes, so I've experienced it on the two bikes, and this one is a much better riding bike. So what I'm going to do is I'll bring the camera in and look at some of the details on this bike. When I got this bike, it was quite rusty, so I had to get it repainted to protect it. I have it set up here in a Campanolo repair stand, and the reason I have it in the repair stand is because it's a complete Campanolo bike. When I got it, Richard, the owner, had it all set up with Campy drivetrain, Campy wheels, Campy brakes. Just a really nice setup. Some of the parts are still there. One of the trademarks of Carré is these caps on the seat stays. I read online that Bernard Carré built some bikes for some famous pro racers back in the 60s and 70s. So I got out my Daniel Rebor book and I looked in the book at different dates, and I found this bike, which is a 1968 Lejeune from Jan Jansen. And if you look at the bike, it's pretty interesting how the down tube decal runs sort of horizontal to the tube. I like that. That's a unique touch. Beautiful drawing. And then the other thing that I saw is that one of his trademarks was to put the initials of the racer on the seat stay cap. And you can see JA for Jacques Anquetil, 5-time winner of the Tour de France. There's no initials on my seat stay cap, sadly. Maybe I'll have to put mine on there. You can see that it's a long point lug. Stout seat binder. Threaded bolt. Interestingly, the brake bridge has triangular reinforcements. I don't think the camera will pick it up, but it's actually a seamed tube. You can feel it underneath. There's actually a seam in the tube. This is another nice treatment on his bikes. Got a little loop for the rear derailleur housing. Little fish mouth ends on the stays. Campy dropouts with eyelets. Split cable housing. Down tube shifters. A nice little peg on the bottom to stop it sliding down. Nice fork crown. I don't actually know the type of crown. or the lugs, might be Prugnod lugs. You can see that the bottle cage is clamped on. There's no bottle brazons on the seat tube or the down tube. The belief was by a lot of builders that brazons there could weaken the frame. You also see that you have cable guides instead of brazed on guides on the bottom bracket. Can't find a serial number anywhere on the bike. I mentioned that the bolt was threaded in the seat lug. Actually, the important thing is that the frame is threaded. Seat lugs with one-piece bolts that fit in there, the bolts would often break. This way, it's indestructible unless you do something really crazy. You can't strip the threads in there. They're oversized, very sturdy. Not real happy with the paint job on this frame, but it's protecting it from the rust. You can see that it's flaking off in places, like on the, all you do is fit the brake and the paint just chips off. It's probably too thick. It's the right color. This will build into a really nice bike. I set it up for LaRocca. I pretty much used some of the Peugeot parts. I want it to be somewhat French. I mentioned how much better this bike rides than the PX10. The feeling is it's more nimble, it's quicker on climbs, it has a little more get up and go, and it floats down the road. In other words, it's on autopilot. You don't have to think about handling it or steering it. It pretty much goes where the road goes on its own. So it's a really nice feeling. One of the great things about this bike and building up a bike like this is that with the old steel frames, there's a lot more clearance for tires. So I'll be able to put on a wider tire, and that'll give you some flotation, more comfort. And LaRocca, which is probably where I'll ride it again, has really beautiful dirt roads, gravel roads. Last time I did it, I rode this bike with sew-up tires and had 3 flat tires, so it was constant stopping and replacing tires. This time with fat clinchers, it should be magnificent, or as we say, magnifique. Maybe if you do LaRocca, California, you'll see me out there. If you do, say hi, and I'll see you in the next video.